it's the biggest misconception that successful creatives uh, lay back on their talent, right? Oh, you just must be more talented than everybody else. And while talent is a factor of 100%, um, please do not think that we don't work our butts off at this, and we study all the time, and we are always trying to improve. I mean, yeah, it is incredibly hard work to take the talent you have and make it and become excellent at doing it.
Welcome to Audio Branding, the hidden gem of marketing. Sound plays a more important role in human behavior and our decision-making than you may realize. In this podcast, I'll help you understand the art and science of sound so you can better influence others in business and your life. I'm your host, Jody Krangle. Let's delve a little deeper. This is the second part of my interview with Kevin Elliot. I'm always curious as to how deeply a company understands its brand DNA in the area of sound, because very often they're very clear on their visuals, but they're not so clear on their audio.
Mm-hmm.
And so it interests me to see how a filmmaker would interpret that, because to make that emotional impact along with the picture, you need the audio. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Well, and let me give you an example of matching sound and matching audio to our brand as our brand interprets a project.
Sure.
We have a docuseries that we do called Craft. And every episode is a little feature, it's like 7 to 10 minutes, of an artist or artisan. And we just interview them, we talk to them. And Courtney and I started this series because it's art for art's sake. Nobody's paying us to do it. It's just we can just do whatever we want, and it's so fun. And I have lots of artist friends, and so I just went down my list of friends and said, "Hey, you're going to be in a video, and you're going to be in a..." Okay, one of our episodes was on a brewery, a microbrewery, brewing beer.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend who opened his wonderful brewery right in the old downtown where we live. We did the thing, and we interviewed the folks, and we were cutting this thing, and the building is visually gorgeous and all that. Well, I go home and I started my music process. And so I started first listening with beer music, I don't know, oompa bands. And I was you just start anywhere. What's the first thing that strikes your mind?
Mm-hmm.
And so what would I hear? And of course I had lived in Germany as a kid. I know what a beer hall sounds like. And so I was going for that. And also the owners of this company are very jovial. They're super fun people. And I was looking for that vibe, and it wasn't working. It just wasn't jiving. And so I don't know how I hit on it, but I was just listening through tracks, and there was this super dramatic viola piece, like a viola concerto, and it starts off really strong. And it's like you would not hear this in a brewery ever.
Mm-hmm.
But when I heard it, I went, "That's my opening track. That is going to surprise the heck out of people and just grab them." I called my wife in, who's also very musical. She's literally my sounding board. I'm like, "Listen to this, dude. You hear what I hear."
That's great.
She walks in and goes, "Oh my gosh, that's the opener." And so that's a good example. But it matched the kind of work we want to do. Grab their heart right away, surprise them, draw them in emotionally. Oompa Band would have done that, but not quite like that viola. It just, to me, it is just so striking when that starts. And so that's an example of splitting the difference between what you would expect to hear in a piece and bringing it toward what Wewa Films, the way we interpret that piece.
I love that.
Which builds our brand. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. You mentioned in your FAQs also that you have a different way of shooting. That's a like film, a very distinct look to your film. I'm curious if you can explain that a little bit.
Sure. And it took me a while to even understand it, how to explain it.
Sure.
Because, sometimes art it just comes out of a person.
It just is.
It just is. And so, but the teacher in me, I had to analyze it. I'm like, why does our stuff look different? Because everybody has access to the same equipment now, right? We have some nice gear, but everybody can buy nice gear. We have all the editing software. We have all the stuff everybody has. But painters also have the same brushes and paint as everybody, but they can make distinctive, unique art. I thought about this a lot, and what it boils down to is two things. And this is all on Courtney. This is just her ability. And while I direct shoots and point her to things to see certain things, she is innately does these two things. One is that she is she's also a wedding videographer, so she's used to being in that setting, and I think it taught her to be a ghost. It taught her to disappear on a set. She's very quiet. She's everything I'm not. I'm always frenetic and my hands are always going. She is very chill and she's really quiet and she just floats around a set. And what that lets her do is catch moments and interactions of people, which of course is our brand, right? Those heartfelt human moments that others who are more conspicuous on a set will miss because people know she's there. They'll be like, oh, look, the camera's there. Let's talk like we're supposed to be natural. That's, of course, looks terrible. They don't know she's there. So she catches moments that others don't see. That's number one. The second thing is she's a natural born visual storyteller. She knows how to put them in sequence. So even if you had the sound off, which I don't recommend, but if you did, you still know. Like that first Mumford & Sons concert video. I saw the story of him going to that concert, watching the concert, and that is a gift. That's not every videographer can do that. You'll see a lot of video that's very slick. It's beautiful. It's shot on the good cameras and all that stuff.
Sure.
But it doesn't make you feel anything. It just, I don't know how to explain it any better than that. But those two things, that's what makes our style different than anything I've frankly seen. And I think it's what attracts our kind of client, because we have a kind of client, like every business. We have a very, it's almost predictable at this point. It's unusual to see that, but
that's great.
But I think they respond to that. They respond to that they want that.
Do you have any particular success stories of how someone realized that she'd been a ghost and that they got this really excellent film and it was all put together and they were blown out of the water and just sort of really happy? So I'd love to hear.
Yes, but fortunately that happens.
I hope it happens a
lot.
Often. Yeah,
if we're tooting our horn, it does. And I think it's why I'm going back to people want to be surprised. They want to see themselves through your artistic eyes. I think a lot of companies forget that too, is that they're very busy selling themselves, but people want to see them. They want to see them and they want you to elevate them. That's why our first promise, you and your organization are going to look their best. You're going to look better than you thought you looked and sound better than you thought you sounded. I get that all the time. Case study. We're doing some work for McDonald's. We're doing and we have a McDonald's owner operator who is really special. And she's an unusual kind of McDonald's owner. She owns a whole bunch of McDonald's and their family has since 1962.
Wow.
Forever. But she understands the value of this kind of thing. So she hired us, and you wouldn't think we'd do McDonald's work, right? But when you see it, it looks like Wewa Films McDonald's work. It's really neat. But that's what she wanted. She said, come in and do this. So we shot just in a McDonald's, and Courtney floated around the kitchen like she does, and the people are just doing their thing, and we got done. We cut her a little teaser of what her McDonald's looked like and her interacting in it. She left a Facebook review, and I'll never forget it. She said, you made our everyday work look like magic. Right? Like working in a McDonald's all of a sudden looked beautiful.
Yeah.
And dramatic and meaningful. And that's what we're going for. That the most mundane thing can be elevated and look beautiful and sound beautiful because it had a music track to it. And it had, and even putting in that sound over them. I mean, there's all of that little audio stuff in the background that people don't notice. They shouldn't notice.
Yeah.
Affects them.
There's a sound design to it
100%.
as well, right? Yeah. I know that we're all dealing with a lot of stuff these days, so I particularly wanted to acknowledge those that have taken the time to leave honest reviews of this podcast. Like Edward F2, who says, Jody does a wonderful job diving into the details of audio branding strategy with her guests. She finds a way to uncover great insights through light, entertaining conversation that will keep you listening straight through to the end. I'm really glad you enjoyed it, Edward. I hope you'll keep listening. And now, back to the show. Out of curiosity, beyond the whole adding music, which is definitely a huge part of this,
Mm,
what do you do with the sound design? I mean, obviously it depends on the production, but
yeah.
what kind of things do you usually find yourselves adding?
So, your listeners will probably know what nat sound means, but natural sound. If you're, if you're doing, so for instance, if you're shooting a video outside by a road, or I live in an Air Force town, right? So
Hmm.
we have Air Force base here. If I'm showing you a video of an F-22 taking off, you had better hear some kind of roaring jet sound in the background, right?
Yeah,
You have to. If
yeah.
you don't, you're not really telling that story. So, for instance, if we're shooting, anytime we're shooting outside, Courtney we will add in gnat sound. Now it's not always the gnat sound we hear on the location, by the way. So
Yeah,
this
I
is
was
a
going
little
to
behind the
say,
scenes, right?
yeah, because
So
like Foley is huge, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's needed because when you're recording something in a natural environment, it doesn't always
no,
sound like people on listening to a film would
correct,
expect it to
right,
sound.
right. So we I think Epidemic Courtney does most of this. I think I know we use Epidemic for this too. But yeah, she can find if for instance we're showing the outside of a brewery. Let's use our brewery example.
Hmm.
People in their mind, whether they know it or not, expect to hear a car honk its horn. Expect to hear, I don't know, a family chittering back in the background. And so we add those things in, even if they didn't happen the moment we were shooting, we make it happen. And that way it completes the experience for those people in other words, there's no cognitive dissonance. They're like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
what it's supposed to sound like outside a brewery. Their brain just tells them that.
sure.
If you don't design the audio around that, you're going to distract your audience. And then they're going to notice, that's when they're going to be like, they're going to see the seams of it, right? They're going to be like, what, that didn't sound right. Like that was off. You never ever want them to, you want to surprise them, but only in good ways, not like, oh, wait, that didn't, like that sounded weird to me or
Yeah,
something.
that's not what you want. No.
No, no. But it takes careful design to make it sound like you caught it in the moment. Yeah, that's a difficult thing to do.
Have you ever made sounds that you thought should be there? Like rather than getting it on Epidemic Sound? I'm just curious.
I'm trying to think if I've ever done that. I don't think so. We do a lot of recording. If, for instance, we're shooting outside,
Hmm.
we will just stand on the roadside and just record cars making car noises and that kind of thing. But I don't think I've ever manufactured, like myself,
Yeah.
manufactured audio. I've done voiceover stuff, and that's about it. We mostly and frankly, I like being able to buy it because I can get exactly what I want
That's very true. Yeah.
and make it sound just the way I want it to sound. So yeah,
Well, it's fantastic that there are directories now that can just give it to you. How
it's
awesome is
unbelievable.
that?
It's so good. It's so neat. Yeah, if you're getting into filmmaking or in any kind of audio design, really get out there. It is amazing what's available to you, and affordably too. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm really amazed at the amount of stuff that is out there now for people to produce media.
yeah,
But there's always this extra little magic, I guess, that
mhm,
happens when you really know what you're doing.
that's right.
So, yeah.
Well, it's the biggest misconception that successful creatives uh, lay back on their talent, right? Oh, you just must be more talented than everybody else. And while talent is a factor of 100%, um, please do not think that we don't work our butts off at this, and we study all the time, and we are always trying to improve. I mean, yeah, it is incredibly hard work to take the talent you have and make it and become excellent at doing it. I think I heard this best. Malcolm Gladwell, the famous writer, wrote Outliers and Tipping Point and those kinds of things. He said, in life, there are entrance requirements for certain things, and then there are excellence requirements. So if I'm going to play center for the Los Angeles Lakers, I probably need to be 7 feet tall. It's just an entrance requirement. You're not
Yeah.
okay. Just because you're 7 feet tall doesn't mean you're going to be the center for the LA Lakers. That takes excellence requirements. You have to then be super hardworking and all those things. So that's how I try to explain to people. We are talented. We're grateful that we have these talents, but we work like animals sometimes to get these things right.
Totally. And it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
speaking of that, what are you working on now that you can talk about?
Sure. We have okay, so we have two super fun, really, we think, really innovative projects. Well,
Hmm.
one's super innovative. I mentioned the McDonald's.
Yep.
I was and this owner is so forward thinking and so interesting ideas. She was talking to me about her 2021 marketing, and she wants to use video. She wants to use what we do and use us to help her tell the story of 2021 is what she was saying. I want to tell the story, which is music to my ears.
Let's hope
So I
it's
said,
better than 2020.
exactly right. Well, that's part of the reason she wants to do that.
Yeah.
And so she says, okay, what do you have going on? What, and she said, well, we have this one location that was built in 1977 and the city has grown around it. Now it's hard to get in and out of it. So we're moving it to a better location, building a new McDonald's. And I went, I said, and then she said, oh yeah. So I said, how long did it take to build a McDonald's? And she goes, 90 days. I said, what are you kidding me? They go from a dirt lot to opening McDonald's in 90 days. And I went, there's your story. I think people would be fascinated by that. Like, how do you, and she was telling me, oh yeah, we get to pick the decor and we do this with all the equipment and I went, that sounds amazing to me. Why don't we do a little web series, like an HGTV show called Making a McDonald's? And let's show people how you do this. And it will connect them to this global brand in a very personal way, we think.
Mm-hmm.
So we started filming for that last week, Making a McDonald's. It's going to be so fun. You've never seen a McDonald's do anything like this before. So it's that one we're super duper excited. And we're going to do an episode every week for 90 days.
Yeah.
So people can follow along with the groundbreaking is tomorrow. As a matter of fact, we're going to film the groundbreaking tomorrow. Another one that's really close to our heart is that we are working with, so Wewa Films is a little tiny little town in North Florida called Wewa Hitchcock. It's where my business partner Courtney is from, was where she still lives. I live like 15 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
We love Wewa. Named our company after it. It's in a little county called Gulf County, Florida, which most people don't know. They know Tampa and Orlando and all. We're in the other Florida, up in North Florida. So we have been hired by the Gulf County Tourist Development Council to shoot video, a campaign in the fall to bring people to this really special part of Florida that most people don't even know exists. We're really excited about that project for two reasons. One, it's our home county. And it's right where we live and the places we love. And two, they hired us because they went, we love Gulf County. We know you love Gulf County. And we want you to go full throttle with your look and feel about this place you love. And so we're so excited about that. Not everybody gets to say, hey, you get to put together a tourist development campaign for your hometown, basically.
I love it. Yeah.
So
that's fantastic.
We are thrilled with that. And we're going to start shooting that in a few weeks.
Wow. I'm looking forward to seeing how and hearing actually how all of these turn out, because they sound like they'll be really fun, fascinating projects.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. 100%. And audio is a big part because music is going to be a big part. And especially the Gulf County one, because Gulf County is a very outdoorsy county. It's a lot of natural things to do. It's going to have a really rich outdoor natural sounds to it. So yeah, I think the audio is going to be great on it.
Fantastic. Are you looking for ways to improve your company's or podcast's impact? You'd be surprised how powerful the use of an intentional audio branding strategy can be. Want to know more? I have a free downloadable PDF that gives you my 5 tips for implementing an intentional audio strategy at voiceoversandvocals.com/audio-branding-strategy. That location does ask to put you on a mailing list, just to send you updates on when the new podcasts come out. But if you really don't want to give your email out, I understand. Just contact me directly. My email is all over my website, and I'll make sure you get that PDF without needing to sign up anywhere. If you do sign up, though, you also get access to a resources section called The Studio, where I have videos, white papers, and PDFs, discounts from my guests, and snippets of audio from my guests that no one else gets to hear. So maybe it's worth your while. Totally up to you. And of course, if you're looking for voiceovers, you can get in touch with me about that too. Now, back to the podcast. So I have one more question that I just want to ask you. I wanted to see if you have like one tip that you would give people producing media in how to use their sound effectively.
Sure. And this is specifically with music, but also voiceover. I mean, and we haven't talked a lot about hiring voice actors, but it is just the same thing. I mean, we're
well, hi.
Right. You have to find the right voice, right? Because that's
sure.
There's a reason why Ken Burns has used Peter Coyote to do basically everything he's ever done, right? Because that's the voice of a Ken Burns film. It's super important.
That's his brand.
That's his audio brand, absolutely. Yep. And it's just as and Ken Burns will tell you, it is just as important that Peter Coyote's voice be there as it is with his visuals, with his, his Ken Burns effect on photos and stuff.
Sure.
It's why he keeps going to them over and over again. It's why John Williams has basically composed all the great movie anthems you've ever heard if you grew up in the 70s and 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones and Star Wars and all the Harry Potter, all the stuff he's done. Okay, so when you're choosing music or a voice actor, I try my best to not start with what I think I'm supposed to hear. I mentioned that with the brewery.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I made a mistake. I went, I'm thinking beer hall music, right? What a mistake. That was such a mistake. We have another episode of that series Craft where we did a comic book illustrator, this guy named Jason Kretzer, great comic book illustrator, has done all these stuff for Marvel and others. And his same thing. I was like, we need comic book music. But no, it didn't work out that way. We ended up using a jazz tracks because for whatever reason, Jason just felt like a jazz song. So don't go in there thinking, I need to find these things. Browse. Start by just browsing everything you can listen to. Take like an hour and just listen to the most random tracks or voices, if you're choosing voices, that you can find. And if one grabs you, even if it's something you did not expect, especially if it's something you didn't expect, put it in a folder and keep it there, because chances are that's going to be the best one. And I frankly, that is a big mistake I hear people do with audio. I have to say is I listen to their music. If I turn the sound off, if it's a corporate video, I can almost tell you what that music's going to sound like.
Yeah.
Because there's only like 5 tracks in the world that these people use, right? For corporate videos. What a mistake. Like what? Because it's going to sound like everybody else. If you're talking about audio branding, what a huge mistake.
Yeah, I just did a corporate video for a pneumatic elevator company. And the tracks that they were using were this really it was like a really sort of jazzy kind of just kind of like a swing kind of jazz music. Like it was kind of like plucky, I guess. I don't know how you'd like.
Yep.
Yeah. And I thought it worked really well. I was really impressed with how they decided to do something a little bit different.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't always, if it's a travel video, I need to have this. This is what travel videos sound like. Well, who says? There's nothing says you have to do that. Choose it. And the second thing I would tell people, and by the way, this is particular to our brand because we make it very clear up front with clients. Like, look, we are a heart brand. We're going for the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so we trust our hearts when we are producing for you. If something grabs our heart, that's what we're going to advocate for. But look for the things that Courtney and I, the way we say it is, what gives you chills?
That's a good saying.
If I watch something and it gives me chills, like, oh man, you're responding to that for a reason, which means other people will respond to that for the same reason. We've built a brand on it. We've built and by the way, audio is just as important as video to building our brand that way. We make it clear. We make the videos that we want to watch. The things that move us and give us chills when we see them in others, that's what we want to give to you. And it's been working so far, thank goodness.
So how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to have a movie done of their own?
My email, I'm Kevin Elliot. My email is Kevin, Kevin, at wewafilms.com, WEWA films.com. If you go to wewafilms.com, my contact information is all over it there. Mm-hmm. And our social media, all of our social media handles are Wewa Films. So if you're on Instagram or Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, it's all Wewa Films. You'll find us.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much for talking with me today, Kevin. This has been really enlightening and a wonderful time.
Well, thank you, Jody. I told you when we first started talking about this, I love this brand that you have. And I love the idea of this, focusing on audio, because it's such an important part that I think you're right. It takes a backseat sometimes to visuals. So this has been completely a blast to nerd out on audio. So thank you for the invite. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. And if you like what you heard, why not tell a friend about this podcast? It's available in all the usual locations. Until next time,